So before we move up the tree and look at the higher aspects of it, let's take a deeper look at Tiferet, the place of truth and beauty, right in the middle here. And I find the Toledano traditions easier to understand Tiferet because it's also got Jacob's ladder, the four worlds. We've got Absolute, the divine world of fire, Berea, the spiritual world of air, Yetzirah, the psychological world of water, and Asiya, the physical world of reality, if you want to call it that. And Tiferet here is at the crown of the physical. So it's the Keter of Asiya, as well as being the Tiferet of Yetzirah and the Malkut of Berea. And as another word for Berea is heaven, spirit or heaven, the Malkut of Berea is the kingdom of heaven. And as you know, I was raised in the Christian tradition, and part of my work is actually to work in ensuring that the teachings of Jesus can be understood through Kabbalah without requiring it to be any kind of religion. Jesus was a Jew. He never intended to start a religion, but his teachings in the Gospels are very Kabbalistic. There's no doubt about it that either he knew this Merkaba tradition, which is what it was called in those days, or the writers of the Gospels did. And also the reason why 4 of them were chosen. Yes, there are the Nag Hammadi scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls, many other scrolls which are particularly relevant. Nag Hammadi, of course, are Christian scrolls, or at least after Jesus, whereas Dead Sea Scrolls are pre-Jesus, but they make it quite clear that he's teaching an ancient Jewish mystical tradition. But that was a brief diversion. So Tiferet is the crown of the physical, the center of the psychological, and the base of the spiritual, which means there are 3 aspects to it. And true Tiferet, where truth is also beauty, is where the 3 are melded together. And Tiferet is the first place where we can be non-dual, non-binary. We can start to see the bigger picture. And it isn't until we get to this threefold Tiferet that the possibility of forgiveness even exists. Because if we're looking at Tiferet down only and Tiferet inward in the psyche only, then we are always going to be overruled by society, or basically the computer program that's in us. Yesod, the ego, is our basic computer operating system. We can upgrade it or keep it as it is. But if we keep it as it is, it's always going to be slightly outdated, and it's going to follow the social mores of the time, the belief system of the time, the system, the world, if you like, of the time. And Tiferet is meant to stand outside of that, to stand on the edge, looking in, observing, being in the world, but not of it. In the world, but not of it, means that you are able to reconcile the system with your own spiritual beliefs and to bring a unity, and in some ways to become an elder, to become somebody who can say yes and, rather than yes but. Yes, I see that that is bad, and there is something we can do that is positive to move the situation on, rather than continually getting locked into the it's bad, it's wrong, and it's their fault. Tiferet, looking down, is the place of the athlete. And that's a good place, because you have to be the one who is telling your body that you want it to stretch its limits. So that is the best place of Tiferet, looking down. For the average person, Tiferet, looking down, is going to be ruled by Yesod. Yesod is the mirror onto the world, and it's going to send all its messages up to Tiferet, who will then feel somewhat superior, because negative Tiferet is pride. So if you find yourself looking down on the world or looking down on other people, and gosh, I've been there, don't think I'm any kind of guru, please, then that's a negative Tiferet, and it's pride. But for the athlete, though, it's a question of having the discipline. You draw down discipline from Gevura, and you draw down love from Netzach, and you draw in love from Hesed, and passion from Netzach, and editing, assessing your performance from Hod. So those 4 aspects will be pulled into Tiferet. And even though I'm no athlete whatsoever, last November I started doing the Couch to 5K because I was aware that I was really very unfit, especially after COVID and getting older. And I have a Scorpio moon, which means that I will hide things. So I never told anybody about it apart from my husband until I'd achieved the 5K, which took me 7 months. I did every single week about 6 times because I was so unfit. But the point of this is that my Tiferet said, wake up, Maggie, you need to do something about your fitness. Now, Yesod was also saying, you're a little bit fat here and you're getting a little bit weak in the upper body and oh dear, worry, worry, worry. But it's Tiferet that says, let us act, because Tiferet does things that are new. Yesod repeats the old. So my Tiferet said, okay, it's time to act, let's do this. But I had to use Tiferet to actually do it because Yesod started grumbling very quickly. Yesod is very complex and it loves you, but it wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you exactly where you are because you're not dead. And as far as Yesod's concerned, that's the most important thing. You're not dead. So something's obviously working according to Yesod. So it was Tiferet using Gevurah that would make me get up earlier in the morning to go out and start doing this again and again and again. 30 seconds running, 2 minutes walking, 30 seconds running, then a minute running, then 2 minutes walking, and building slowly up. But after 6 weeks of doing anything like that, Yesod's got the idea. And then Yesod will start to nag you. So that's why Yesod can be incredibly useful in spiritual work because it will maintain it. But it does take a good 6 weeks for it to get round to having that habit ingrained in it. So Tiferet looking down is for the athlete or the proud person, the person that wants to look down on others and project their own issue onto others. And St. Paul's teaching about, it's often quoted about homosexuality. It's in Colossians, and he allegedly says that, don't do what the pagans do, don't do these unnatural acts, don't do this, that, and the other. And then he also says, don't be mean, don't be spiteful, don't do gossip, don't be rude to your parents. And we ignore those because it's so much easier for negative Tiferet to say they are doing that wrong, without taking any notice of all the injunctions of me not being proud or arrogant or gossiping or judgmental. Much easier to project onto the other. Tiferet in the center of the psyche, well, that can be very balanced. You can go into yourself, you can come to your senses. That's what it actually means, to come to the actual senses, to be intuitive of what your body and your world around you is telling you. It's very possible to be balanced in that central part of Tiferet, and that's good and it's great. However, yes, there's a however, without the input of spirit, without the opening of the door up to art into spirit, the likelihood is that these side triads will come to rule you, or come to rule us, come to rule me, certainly. This is the triad of pain and guilt. This is the triad of pleasure and addiction. These are emotional triads ruled by water, and these intellectual triads are the thou shalt nots, and these are the thou shalts. So these are the rules and regulations of society or our religion and how they impact upon us, how we think we should behave. And that old idea of projecting stuff onto other people is very much ingrained into the Christian faith and many other faiths too, I'm sure. They're doing it wrong, whereas we turn up at church, so we're doing it right. But these two are the biggest problem for most of us today, because this is where our grief, anger, hatred, and pain are locked in the unconscious. And this is where we go to escape them in addiction. So basically, this is being terribly upset about something going on, and this is hitting the box set to get us out of it so we don't have to think it through, we don't have to come up with something new. And I'm sure I've mentioned before that when Jesus and in any New Testament character is quoted as saying repent, the word is metanoia. Metanoia means think anew. It doesn't mean think the same old guilt, think the same old I shouldn't have, or this is wrong. It means have a new thought. And the new thought will come from spirit. And that is Tiferet at Berea, the base of Berea, the kingdom of heaven. This is where we have access to what is basically the Yesod of Berea. The art on the tree, this opening up into spirit, this cat flap, as I call it, is the way that we program spirit. Because we do. We put our thoughts, emotions, and feelings out, and they go up into spirit through this cat flap, and they form the yesod of what our spiritual understanding is. And if we do that, then we're probably going to block that door off very, very quickly. The secret is to come together with these three aspects of Tiferet to open up to the new, to the metanoia, to the new thought, to the new feeling. And that's why it's so important to have a contemplative practice of some kind, especially first thing in the morning. If you don't have time to meditate because you have to go to work, well, the spiritual teaching would be get up earlier and do it, but I realize that's a pretty tricky thing to do. So I always suggest before you get out of bed, 10 appreciations, 10 links to what is good in your life, and a prayer, something that gives you the chance to connect up first before Yesod from below comes up and informs you how bad your day is going to be, or worries about your day. And I always use the prayer from Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote The Game of Life and How to Pray It. So when I wake, the first words that come through my mind, and I've trained Yesod to this, which you can do, to say, thy will be done this day, O Lord. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day where miracle follows miracle and wonders never cease. And just doing that sets your intention. It tells your guardian angel, your guidance. It tells the Holy One, his herself, that your first goal is to have a day that is connected to spirit, a day where you honor and accept the possibility of miracles, and a day where God, if you like, the Holy One, your true self, your intention comes first. Then take something lovely for yourself. Maybe it's just a cup of tea in the morning or a cup of coffee or whatever, and then go out and deal with the day. And that's how to use Tiferet. Connect, celebrate, then deal with the world. And if you do that, you won't go far wrong. Thank you.